especially with COVID and all that crap. Let people know how we operate and some mindset on dog behavior and stuff. So I just looked real quick. Seems like it's general obedience, off-leash obedience. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And is she nervous or timid?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can see that a little bit right there.
Are you Jesse?
I am.
Oh, okay.
Awesome. You were highly recommended.
Who recommended you?
Malka's parents. And
Oh, yeah.
on Lake Larrabee in Chicago. They're our neighbors.
Oh, yeah.
So that's how we heard about you guys, and we were told only do it if it's for you. So.
Malka's a Rhodesian. So.
Hey.
Yeah.
Okay,
I actually have a Rhodesian right now in my daycare.
Oh yeah.
His name's Rizzo. He's like half her size though.
Oh.
He's not too big. Yeah, so I trained Fitz just this past summer, and I trained Malka the year prior. And I've actually trained a few other dogs within the area.
Oh, nice.
Just not in that building. So you're in the same building?
No, just straight down the street.
Oh, down the street.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Did you guys meet them over at the dog park?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So before reaching out and stuff, did you happen to do any research on me, or did you just go with okay, they suggested Jesse and
Just through them.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I looked at the website, but there wasn't too much. Honestly, I just looked at the consultation and prices and things of that nature.
Sure.
I didn't do any research on you specifically.
Okay, well, I'll fill you in on all that stuff. The reason why we do consultations is sometimes people just streamline to it, like you guys are referred, obviously, but they'll like to streamline through the form, and they're not aware of how I train or what methods I use and things like that, and they're just like, what, I'm like this. It's all over the website. That's why you put it there, so people aren't caught off guard. But both Fitz and Mauka are trained on e-collar,
Yeah.
which I'm sure you're aware of. And the reason why I do e-collar, especially if you're doing off-leash, is it's the only tool, in my opinion, that guarantees you off-leash control.
Yeah.
Because food at some point, either through something more rewarding,
Exactly.
or the dog's too far away, not going to have an effect. If you're doing like a no-pull harness or a gentle leader or a prong collar, it might give you a bit more control, but once you remove the leash, again, you don't have a means of contact with your dog. And e-collar is the only tool that guarantees that. That even if they're, some of the collars go up to a mile in terms of distance, obviously it's more than enough
Yeah.
than the average family pet. They're meant for hunting dogs.
What?
Yeah.
So,
You're a doggy. Yeah.
So yeah, it allows you to have connection with your dog and reinforce things should they make a mistake or should they get too distracted or what have you. Okay.
Sick.
So for other than like the obedience stuff, what's your life look like, and like what are you trying to achieve with your pup here?
I would say just for her to listen better.
Okay.
Yeah. She definitely listens, but only really when she necessarily wants to.
Sure.
And as you know, with the breed, they're a little stubborn.
Mhm.
I'm used to having a lab that
Sure.
I had at home, so a little bit of a learning experience for myself. She still pulls actually a decent amount, which has been a struggle for us. We used to go on long walks for exercise, and then
Dog parks.
dog parks.
Okay.
But yeah,
She's just hyper and like a little crazy.
yeah,
So we just
and
wanted
she
to.
still just has puppy, which is
Yeah, she's
Sure.
expected.
7 months. So.
But honestly, Malka and Fitz highly recommended you, and having a big dog especially.
Sure.
Like in my family at least, we have some younger kids, so don't want her to jump.
The jumping is
yeah.
bad.
Sure. Gotcha. Do you guys would you go hiking and stuff with her, or?
Yeah,
Yes.
so that's something that we would like to do in the future.
Okay. Because what determines length of time and all that stuff and cost is simply how much control you're wanting. And then I'll go over how e-collar works and all that stuff. Are you familiar with e-collar at all?
They told us
Yes
about
and
it.
no.
Okay.
We've
Yeah.
seen it. Have we used it? No. And then I just Googled it just to see
Sure.
more information about it.
Yeah. So if you go on Google, you'll probably find a lot of horror stories and stuff. Because one, it's either they're using a very cheap knockoff kind of e-collar and get what you pay for, or two, they weren't using it correctly. Most people's perception of when they use an aversive like an e-collar or a prong collar, which is the spiky looking one, is they think punish. Okay. Now, not that punishment doesn't have a place in correcting a dog or anything, but it's very different. So most people, when they try to teach the heel, when the dog pulls, they'll yank them with the prong, or they'll remote them with the e-collar to punish the behavior of pulling, okay? But dogs don't understand that concept because they don't know that pulling is wrong. It's not wrong.
Right.
They're not even meant to be on the leash. right? They're four-legged creatures, we're two-legged, they have a much faster walking cadence than we do. So that's why they pull ahead. Also, dogs have this thing called opposition reflex, which is when they feel tension, they want to go against it, okay? So like here with your harness, this is a no-pull front harness.
Yep.
No-pull harness is an oxymoron because harnesses are meant for pulling. Huskies pull sleds with harnesses, right? So here, what happens with the no-pull harness is it diverts the front pressure because dogs pull forward with their front legs and push forward with their back legs. So that's where all the power is right here. So when you put that harness on, if it's a back clip, then the dog definitely has a lot of power. When you put on a front clip, it just merely diverts it. But even like with these bigger dogs, they're pretty powerful. You can still get they can still pull you a pretty decent amount. So with the e-collar, I look at it more so as a lines of communication. The way we layer it is what's called pressure work. Have you ever pulled up and pushed down to make her sit before?
Yeah, actually, yeah, especially.
So that's pressure. Okay, when you pull up and you push down on her hindquarters, you're using physical pressure to guide her into a sitting position. Once she sat down, you may have like stopped, of course, with pushing on her and then praised her. So you remove the pressure once you comply. So then if she keeps getting up, you just keep repeating this process, and eventually she learns like, oh, if I feel this, I do this, and if I get up, it just put me back into it again, right? And then the dog will like not move anymore. Very similar with the e-collar. Have you ever been to a physical therapist or a chiropractor?
Yeah.
You have? Have you ever had stim?
Yes.
The machine that moves your muscles? Okay, that's an e-collar. Okay, so people usually think e-collar is electrocution. They think it's like being tased or like sticking your finger in an outlet. It's not. It's simply a miniaturized TENS unit, which is what they use for humans for either muscle rehabilitation, easing the back pain. Like you can go to like Walgreens and you look in the back section. It's called a TENS unit, TENS unit. Yeah, it looks like a little bone and you put on your back, and it contracts the muscles to ease back pain. Okay, so it's the same technology, except in my opinion, it's a bit more refined. With the human TENS units, like the ones that they use at the chiropractic offices, is there's still risk of electrical burn if they don't set up correctly or watch it correctly. There's still risk of electrocution, and if you have a pacemaker, they can't use it. Okay, so with e-collar, we don't have any of that. Okay, there's no electrocution, it's fully waterproof, and there's no risk of electrical burn. Okay, so when we start layering in the remote, I don't know what her number would be. She does. We have to figure that out, right? So kind of like when you went, they may have started low and then worked their way up, and then you would say like, hey, that's too much, and then they would lower it. And they say, how's that? And they're like, that's fine, and then they'll let the machine do its work, right? Yeah. Very similar for dog training here. Is I was just letting some heat out because it was getting a little too warm in here. I'll close it. You can let her just roam around. It's very similar. We start low and we work our way up. So my collar goes 0 to 127. Cheaper collars go to like 10. Okay. The difference is I have 117 more divisions. So people typically think 10 and 127 that we have that much more power, but 10 and 127 are the same. Yeah. I just have 117 more divisions. Okay, so I can really fine tune it to the dog. So if 40 is too high and she's yelping, I'm sorry, if on a 1 to 10 collar, if 4 is too high and she's yelping, 3 is too low, she's not listening, now you're stuck. Right. Right, there's no in between. But for mine, I can go 40, 30, 35, 34, 36. And really fine tune it to the dog's personality type. Okay. So we use professional grade quality e-collars. They're more expensive, but they're more expensive for a reason. Right. And they last a really long time. So like I've had mine going on 8 years, no issues. The most common issue. Batteries? Sorry. It's a rechargeable lithium battery, much like your cell phone. Okay. So like that's like the most common thing that I get is that after like a few years, the battery may die out. Yeah. And if it's under warranty, like you can call them, they'll replace it. Otherwise, you just go on the website, you pick one up for like 15, 20 bucks, you replace it, and then you have your collar working again. Yeah. Okay. So, and even that's, in like, I don't know how many clients I get a year now, it's a lot, but someone coming back with like battery problems is like infrequent as well. Yeah. So they're good quality, they're the best in my opinion, and they last a really long time. So when it comes to the training, the first thing that we always cover is leash walking, which is the heel command, because if you put an e-collar on a dog and you start remoting, they would most likely start to wander around. If anything, they want to run away from it because they don't know what it is. So we use a moving command to teach the dog how the collar turns on and how it turns off. Okay, it's to give them, or kind of help them develop. She's sniffing at the camera.
She got scared.
Did you put a little nose up there?
Yeah,
That's scared.
It helps her learn how it turns on, how it turns off, so she perceives it more as like a line of communication, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, we just start to build on her skill sets, if you will. So we always typically start with the leash walking, heel. Then the next thing is usually a recall. The next thing is typically a recall.
Okay.
And then there's 6 commands: to sit, stay down, come, place, heel. Those are like the 6 standard family pet commands.
Yeah.
And I have 3, 6, 9, and 12-week programs. Okay, the 3-week is like for people who are struggling with leash reactivity, dogs who lunge and bark at other dogs, and it's just like, I want to fix this problem, and that's all I care about. That's what the 3-week is for. And 6, 9, and 12 is more so where your range is going to be. It just depends on how much control you want. The 6-week, I look at it as I walk my dog on a leash, I go to the dog park, my dog is off leash to the dog park, and then I walk my dog back home again.
Yep.
Okay. The 9-week is I walk my dog to the dog park, they're off leash to the dog park, and I go to like restaurant patios. And the 12-week is I do everything with my dog, hiking, going to the beach, going to the dog park, going to a patio. Like the dog's gonna go everywhere with you practically. You know, so like someone wants an ESA dog, like a service dog, they're gonna need a very high level of control because the dog's gonna be going to a lot of places.
Right.
Okay. So and the way I operate or do those programs is a little bit different. So if someone comes in saying like, I want to do 12 weeks, I know we're gonna do off leash. So the first 6 classes are all the skills that sit, stay down, come, place, heel. And then the next 6 classes are building or practicing those skills to off leash reliability. Okay. Whereas the 6 and 9, I come in going, okay, what are you needing or wanting? Okay, this is like the bare bones of what you need for your particular dog. Okay. Now your case is more straightforward because it's just obedience.
Yeah.
Because the biggest factor is always behavior. So if I have a dog that's very leash reactive, like that's a variable in the training, that I'll tell the owner, like ideally this should only take a couple of classes, but I don't know, every case is different. And then sometimes we spend more time on the behavior than we anticipated, so that we don't cover all the obedience that maybe they wanted, you know. Questions so far?
No.
If we started with like the 6-week and it's not, like she's not fully ready, can we then go up to the 9-week?
What do you mean?
Like, can we always add classes on?
You can. So the way we do it is, once you get your program, you have my time for a period, right? So let's say you do 6 weeks. For 6 weeks plus 1, so 7 weeks total, you would have, let's say, a recurring time with me. And every week, let's say, for example, Friday at 4 o'clock was open and worked for everybody. Every Friday at 4 o'clock for 7 weeks, that is your time.
Oh.
No one can take it from you, okay? So then if something, like let's say you have to reschedule a couple of them, by the time you hit your 7th week, you have a couple of classes left over, but if someone's wanting that time, you've used up your priority. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So then to keep my calendar rolling, Maria will tell you like, hey, you used up your priority, you have 2 classes left, but someone wants that 4 o'clock time. You know, she would give you other times to finish off that program.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you do 6 and then you want to add on 3, a couple of things would be, one, if someone again wants that time and they pay for it and they book it, you would just have to reschedule with whatever the 3 additional classes are. Okay. Now, also, we don't prorate. You just go by program. So if someone says, hey, I want to do 12 classes with you, they get a discounted rate because they're just committing right up front with 6 classes. Because we had somebody do that, they did 9.
Cleo.
And then they ended up liking what they got, and they wanted to do like
3
get
more.
the full off leash. So
Yeah.
they did 3, but then they paid for a 3-week program.
Gotcha.
So then they got that rate as opposed to like a 12-week
Right.
rate. Does that make
Package,
sense?
yep.
Okay. I used to do that before, but because of COVID, like I've had to hire more people. My expenses went up, so I'm like now I can't be as unfortunately as easy as it was before. So I was like I had no problem with it. Like yeah, sure, just prorate it, whatever. Because the other thing is people. The standard for training, unfortunately, is very low nowadays, and my standard is very high. It just comes down to does the owner do the homework?
Yeah.
And they come in, or maybe they got ripped off by another trainer, so they're kind of like skeptical. They're like, nah, this guy said he was going to fix the problem, he didn't fix it, and I paid him $1,000. And I'm like, that's not going to happen here, like, you know, just.
Yeah.
But they're skeptical about it, so they do a shorter program, and then they decide to like, oh, now I want to extend it because I see it actually does work. You know? Which is also why with the filming it's helped out a lot. So like, let's say only one of you can come to a session, but you don't want to skip your session, you just refer to your video.
Oh, nice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was concerned about that because we do have a little bit of travel.
Yeah, and if you have to travel, like you don't have to be how to say, like, it doesn't affect the training.
Mhm.
So the e-collar, there's so many pros to it. One of them is, like, I get people with rotating schedules, and I can't see them once a week. Like, I might see them once every 3 weeks because our schedules just don't line up.
Right.
But for them, it just gives them more time to practice. But then also, like, I get people who travel a lot, and they're like, I'm out of town for 4 days out of 7. Like, is this gonna affect my training? I go, no. So, like, as long as you're consistent with what you do with the dog,
Right.
that's what the dog learns off of, is the consistency.
Mhm.
Every time we walk, I'm always here. It doesn't matter if you're gone 4 out of 7 days.
Right.
Okay, it's a curious one. So, yeah, so that's not a problem. You would just let Maria know. You know, ideally you have time, and just so she gets you like adjust the calendar or whatever,
Okay.
and then it'll make things easier in terms of scheduling and stuff. Yeah. Okay. Other questions?
No, I will say, I know the pricing online,
Uh-huh.
which it could be increased due to COVID or something, but didn't match up with what we had seen or heard from Malka and Fitz.
Yeah, it's gone up since, because when they trained with me, it was, Fitz was during COVID, but it was before our price, the price change, yeah.
Okay.
And then Malka was like a year ago, which was before my facility, so my prices have gone up twice.
Okay.
They went up once because of the facility,
Mhm.
because I have a big rent to pay now.
Yeah.
And they went up again because I had to hire more people because of COVID. Yeah.
Got it.
So, but we've had a bunch of people sign up from other clients, and it's been the same thing. And it's like, yeah, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
No, that's, I just wasn't sure if that's exactly what it was or.
Yeah, no, it was all that stuff. I had to hire a camera guy, so I have a media guy that edits all the videos and stuff. Because I used to do it, but then I was working from 7 o'clock in the morning to midnight.
Yeah.
Like almost every day.
Do that.
Yeah, so I hired a guy to do this stuff, and then I had more employees because for my daycare here, we were doing like pack walks and stuff, trying to get dogs out, so I needed more handlers to exercise the dogs and everything. And now I just picked up like treadmills for my facility dogs, so that they get their exercise. Yeah, we're super structured around here. It's not a free for all, and we try to give the dogs different types of activities so that they're not play all day.
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of change in
Yeah.
the past few months, especially with COVID going on.
Sit.
Stand.
Yeah.
Stand.
She's more of a hand signal girl.
Sit.
Cleo,
Cleo.
Sit.
No, and sit it.
sit. Yes.
One of the most common questions that I get is, when does the e-collar go away? Right, so I'm sure you've seen Malka and Fitz where they still have their e-collars on.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys drive?
Yeah.
You go on the expressway?
Yes.
Do you go the speed limit?
I'm sorry?
Do you go the speed limit?
No, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Why not?
I'm sorry?
Why not?
Because you don't always have to.
But
And
it's
that's
the
the speed
law.
of traffic.
Where does that say?
It's the
Does that
speed of
say
traffic.
law, right? So, that's called opportunistic behavior. Everybody does it. Like, I don't go the speed limit.
Yeah.
Right? It always makes people feel uncomfortable when they're just like, wait, am I gonna get reported? So, it's called opportunistic behavior, okay? People speed because they can.
Mhm.
And, there's not enough cops or whatever, or cameras to like catch everybody, right? But if you see a SWAT car, what are you gonna do?
Slow down.
Right, you're gonna go to the speed limit because now there's sort of consequence, now you might get a ticket or whatever. So it's the same thing for dogs. I think the e-collar is a cop on a collar. When she has it on, she's gonna know you have control, there's sort of consequence. I have to listen, right?
Yeah.
And then when it's off, you're gonna see that shift where she's gonna bend the rules because now she can, okay? It's perfectly normal, it has nothing to do with the training methods, it has nothing to do with my skills as a trainer. It's just, if you can get away with something, you will,
Yeah.
right? Or you'll do it. So like me growing up as a kid, if my mom said, hey Jesse, you can't watch TV, you're grounded, and then had to leave to go like get groceries, and she's like, watch them, your brothers and sister. Now there's no one to reinforce that I couldn't watch TV. We were at the honor system there, right? Or she would say, no TV still, but of course, being a kid, knowing that to get away with it, I watch TV,
Right.
okay? So, you're not constantly having to use the collar. Once the skills are trained, it's just present, okay? The other thing is you can't account for life, like the things that life throws at you. I had a client's dog get confronted by a coyote in Lincoln Park. He was able to get his dog back because he did remote training. I've had people's dogs run away because of fireworks. Someone randomly just set up a firework, not even near 4th of July, just like randomly.
Yeah.
And it spooked the dogs, but they're able to get the dogs back because they had their e-collar on.
Right.
Squirrel, boom, just runs right by, or a rabbit, very high prey drive dog, takes off after the squirrel, running towards the street. But we have control within those moments, okay?
Right.
So it's there in case of an emergency, and maybe on the occasion that she makes a mistake or something. But again, this all comes down to how much practice or how much homework you're doing, okay? Everybody, that's the biggest variable is always the humans.
Yeah.
Because either they feel bad using their e-collar on the dog, or they don't go to the level needed to get the dog to comply, or they use it sparingly. Whereas when I use it, I'm very generous with it. I remote for everything, and then that's why I get such reliable obedience very quickly, because the dog thinks there is no gray area. It's either I do the command or I risk being remoted.
Do you recommend that, like, if we're just sitting around at home, do you recommend your clients use it then?
Only if there's stuff in the home they need to address.
Okay.
So let's say there's a command that we teach called the place command, which is, so that dog bed right there, we would use for a place, and what that is I send the dog there, and they have to be there for as long as, 4 hours, 6 hours, 2 hours. What are you doing? Yes.
Yeah, that's her favorite.
For a ball. It's meant for extended use, right? So if you're trying to practice that, then you would start in the home, Here, take that.
Thank you.
Sure. You would start in the home with because that's easier, and that's where you spend most of your time. So if you're gonna watch TV for an hour, you have her there in place. No, you can't have that. in place for whatever period of time. So let's say you go to a restaurant patio, and you want to take that with you to have her sit still while you have brunch or whatever.
Yeah.
That's what that's meant for.
Okay.
So if there's nothing in the home behaviorally, if there's no issues, if she's a nice dog and well mannered or whatever, you don't really need it unless you're doing some kind of training like that. But then once that's been taught, you just use it as needed or whatever, and then you should be fine. Most of the stuff is applied outside, because there's so much stimuli going on, other dogs, people, scents, animals, sounds, things like that you need more control because you have a lot more stimuli to attend with.
Got it.
Okay? Other questions?
Obviously you've dealt with Malcolm before. What's general breed feedback?
For Rhodesians?
Yeah, for
the ones, and I might be biased just because all the ones that I've worked with have been anxious dogs.
Okay.
Okay? So actually, her constant moving around like this is a sign of anxiety.
Right.
Yeah. She
Anxiety.
also hasn't pooped today, and she paces when she hasn't pooped.
Gotcha.
So it's always in the morning, so I think she has to poop, to be honest, too.
And you see how she started chewing on the rope on her leash there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's either anxiety or overstimulation, which they do tend to kind of, I don't want to say go hand in hand, but they're very common to see together. We have a Rhodesian right now who's a very anxious dog.
Okay.
Malco is also an anxious
Yeah.
dog. And I worked with a couple of other Rhodesians, and they were the same thing. Anxious dogs, okay?
Yeah.
I probably worked with a total of 8 to 10 over 10 years. And in my experience, I'm pretty certain almost all of them were anxious.
Okay.
So, once you start working with her, not uncommon to see in the beginning what looks like mopiness or depression. It's not mopiness or depression, it's just no one likes discipline.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, it's all the rules, you'll see the dog blah, right? But then they get over it. Once they learn the rules, I'm okay, if I just come when they call me, and I walk when they say heel, and I sit when they say sit, nothing happens.
Yeah.
Then they start to open up and loosen up. When we deal with anxious personality types, not uncommon to see what looks like more anxiety, okay? Because e-collar is a stressor.
Right.
And when you put a dog under stress, you're going to see that response, so her stress response is I get anxious. So if you apply the e-collar, which is a stressor, you're going to see anxiety, okay? So in order to teach a dog how to handle those things, we put them under stress, but we work them through it to help them handle those things in a healthier fashion, okay? So I can't make her unanxious.
Right, yeah.
But we can teach her how to handle anxiety better, right? So if I have her all this pacing around, whether it's because of poop or just her just being overstimulated, which overstimulation doesn't mean excitement. It just means the brain is unable to settle. Okay, so all the moving around, and the pacing, and the whining, and the sniffing, and the exploring is overstimulation / anxiety. But then if I have the dog, you'd see them laying down at my feet very calmly. Okay, so because I put rules to things, so I don't allow the brain to escalate. And so here, because she's unregulated, it keeps looking for options.
Yeah.
Right? So once you start to put rules to her, what you'll start to see is when you sit down, she should be just chill.
Yeah.
If I had my pit and I was in here, my pit would just, without any words, just lay down. Okay, it's not a down command. She's just we're chilling right now. I'm gonna relax because Dad's gonna talk for a bit and just hang out.
Hey,
she wouldn't be explored.
Right.
Okay? Other questions?
Obviously I know, like, due to your track record, you have people come back and ask for more. Is there any times that they come back and they're like, hey, this isn't working, and it's just due to...
The only time it doesn't work is if they don't do the homework.
Okay, and that leads me to my next question. How long is it, like an hour per day?
Correct. So for the training sessions, it's an hour once a week.
Mm-hmm.
Where we meet a recurring time or whatever works for you. And then, because it's obedience, it's pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah.
So like if you did 6 classes, I would prioritize, the most important commands, which was the leash walking, the come when called, and then we most likely cover some kind of duration command, okay? Mm-hmm. So the trifecta of training is walk with me, don't pull, come when I call you, and go here, don't move. Okay, so then those are the 3 simple commands.
Right.
There's more like sit down, stay and stuff.
Yeah.
Which are kind of like superficial. Like I teach them.
Yeah.
But if I only have you for so long, that's why I go like, what are you going to do with your dog? Because I need to know what I need to get done within a certain time frame.
Yeah.
And then if someone tells me like, hey, hike me this and that and all this stuff, I go at 12 classes.
Yeah.
And they're like, but I only want to do 6. And I go, okay, but you're not going to get everything. You're only going to get this because I know what you can get done. If I have a dog that has behavioral issues, like I'll, again, bare bones, I go, for your particular dog, we need to address this, and we should have enough classes to like fix this stuff too.
Okay.
Like I've been doing this for 10 years, so like I have a really good idea of like what I can get done within the time frame. Obedience is easy because it's mechanical. Mm-hmm. Put your butt down, go here, don't move, walk at my side. Okay, it's not the same as like don't lunge and bark.
Right.
Okay, it's a totally different thing. Other questions?
Do you have any?
I guess when I said that we would go hiking, that's more of like a probably once a year thing. Like
Yeah, it's not like we're going on like 10-mile hikes every year.
Sure.
We might go on vacation once a year or 2 maybe and bring her and hike for an hour or 2.
And it will be a close hike. The other hikes are like, it's not even a hike, it's like us walking a trail where if we have a recall of, 50 yards or so, then 50 yards is the biggest we'll ever get to.
Sure.
So hiking, yes, but not real hiking.
Not
Not in Colorado.
Yeah. So you're more likely like just in the 6-week range.
Yeah.
Pretty simple stuff. Now the heel is typically the fastest thing that a dog learns because you have to walk your dog multiple times a day.
Right.
Recall tends to be the longest command to teach a dog because it requires you to go somewhere. Mm-hmm. Now you guys are right there by the riverfront. Mm-hmm. Right, so there's some space there for you to practice with.
Yeah, we have this huge field down the street from our apartment too. We could practice.
Is it the one just north of you?
Yeah.
I know
That's right where we live.
Yeah. So like, then we have to think about environment. Now, if that's always going to be her environment, then you're fine. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't transfer. Like people will think like, oh, I train my dog recall like at the dog park. They're going to be amazing when I go to this new dog park.
Right.
That's a different dog park.
Right.
Now you have to practice there. Okay, so your training is only as good as the environment you practice in. So if you always practice in the same environment, she's going to be great there. But when you're trying to go somewhere new, she's going to struggle. Okay, so don't get too caught up on that. You're going to want to practice and go out the comfort zone and expose her to different places to get more reliable obedience. Okay, but recall does take the longest to teach because we not only want to teach it, but we want to proof it. And proofing it means like if she is running away because she's spooked because of a firework, that you're able to force the return.
Right.
Okay? Because that's not about obedience. That's about a dog running for their life. Because she's like, I don't know what that big loud sound is, and I'm scared, and I need to protect myself. So then you have to go into like, all right, this is emergency mode, and I need you to come back. So, and I teach all that stuff.
Yeah.
I go over with you. It's really sensible. Once you understand it and like how e-collar works, then it's just a matter of doing your homework, practicing, applying it to life. Because that's the most important part of dog training is you have to apply it.
Right.
Most trainers go with, you do your training session and then hope it works in life.
Yeah.
And they go, no, once we taught the behavior, you immediately start using it. So once she learns how to walk, nicely in a heel, when you go on your walks, now she's going to be in that heel unless you give her permission to be loose on it. Okay. The recall, once you've taught the recall, if she goes to the dog park, you want to practice it there. If she goes off leash at the lakefront, you want to practice it there.
Yeah.
You're just applying it so that she develops that skill and it becomes reliable.
Right.
Okay. Anything else?
I'm sure I will if there's anything else, but I can't think of say we're in the 6-week range. Obviously recall's gonna take the longest, heel's gonna be the fastest. What other lessons or traits like the place command, or if she would just be, if we're sitting down, will she be sitting down? Other things that we'll be getting from the 6 weeks.
So heel is typically 2 classes,
Mhm.
recall is 2 classes, place is typically a class, and then the 6th class tends to be like an overview, which is we review everything that you learned to make sure that we're not practicing incorrectly. Because people do misconstrue or they forget things. So then like I'll tell them like show me how you're practicing the recall. I always start with the review from the previous week.
Okay.
And a lot of times people will be doing things wrong.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, we gotta correct that, we fix it, right? And we keep teaching you things. And then the last class is like, all right, show me everything. And making sure that we're just practicing that correctly. Because just like you can train her to do what you want her to do, you can also untrain her.
Mhm.
Okay? And that can happen, especially with boarding trains, where we do all the training ourselves.
Yeah.
And then we teach the owner. And since the owner had only had like 2 hours with us, when they leave, they tend to come back when I see them for their follow-ups, and they're doing a lot of things incorrectly. Because they're going off for 2 hours solely from memory.
Ah.
So then I have to fix those things because they're like, yeah, the dog keeps like getting up from this, and I keep telling them to go back to place.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, the reason why they keep doing that is because you keep saying place. Like we don't repeat it, we just correct it. So like things like that.
Got it.
So when we do the recall, after the 6 weeks are done, you may still be working on it.
Right.
Does that make
But
sense?
we know how
Yeah.
to.
But you have
the training.
the skills, you have the exercise to practice it to get it to be off-leash reliable. Recall is the one command that has to be off-leash reliable.
Mhm.
Okay, because if she's running away because she's scared or whatever,
Yeah, she is.
and she doesn't have an off-leash reliable recall, it's pointless. Okay, everything else is on the leash, but the recall has to be off-leash reliable.
Okay.
Okay. In terms of the training collar, the one that she would need, I believe, runs like $299 pre-tax. You can get them on Amazon. Maria will send you the information on that. It's a 1900 S Black Edition. Maoka, she technically needs the one that Maoka is on, but they discontinued that model.
Okay.
So this is like the newer, more updated version of that model, and that you can get on Amazon. I think you can also get an extended warranty. I think they go up to 3 years. You get at least a year with the company, but then I think you can expand it to 3 years. That's just personal preference. Otherwise, like I said, the most common thing that I get is like the battery.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Not that I expect you to remember off the top of your head, but do you have any idea how long Fitz or Malka, how many classes they did?
Malka, I think, did 9,
Mhm.
and Fitz, I believe, did 6.
Okay.
This is so good.
Yeah, he's very good.
He was an easy personality to work with.
Yeah.
Malka was more difficult because he's anxious.
Yeah, he's still very anxious, honestly.
Yeah, can't make him unanxious. Like
Yeah.
he's just an anxious dog. So like fear, nervousness, anxiety, like I was telling you, you can't take it out the dog. That's the genetic makeup. But you can teach him how to handle it better.
Right.
Because a lot of times those behaviors lead to other things like reactivity and stuff, which we don't want. But yeah, I remember Malcolm, he's an anxious dog.
Yeah, he definitely is. But I mean, I will say his owner, the man being like the first person we met, but the biggest advocate for you, he said like, hey, Malcolm he understood the e-collar in, 2 sessions.
Yeah.
Which doesn't mean they know everything.
Right.
If that does happen, like say she understands it more, can we use those 3 sessions to work on something else if we think that she's working on, say she's doing her recall and everything else okay,
Mm-hmm.
is there a chance to use, we don't have to use another session on a recall then, do we?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, so it's pretty straightforward. It's
Yeah.
2 sessions on heel, 2 sessions on recall, because there's parts to it.
Okay.
Because it's so much information, like it's a lot. So
Okay.
I have to split it in chunks. So unless you come back saying like, hey, we're still struggling with recall, once we do the 2 parts to it, you just practice it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
I
and like if
misunderstood.
something came up, and
Yeah.
you came in on the 3rd session, you're like, hey Jesse, I know we're gonna do recall today, but this happened, we're really concerned about it, we wanna work on it. And I go, okay, then I just make a tangent.
Yeah, just pivot.
But then we may not have, like let's say that took 3 classes to fix, whatever it is, right?
Mhm.
Then it just leaves us with 1 class to work on something else, if you're doing it. So, yeah, the one thing that has to happen is the heel.
Yeah.
Okay, if I'm working with a behavioral case, the first thing we always cover is heel. When it's a case like this, again, same thing, it's always heel. Once we get that into play, then it doesn't really matter how the other classes move forward. I just tell the owners that we may not cover everything if they have other things that they want to cover that are outside of the curriculum.
Okay.
Yeah.
That really covers all my questions then. Anything else from you?
You asked everything.
So Maria would get in touch with you. She'd
Okay.
shoot you an email with the form, and she'd ask for your availability, and then she'll look over my calendar and stuff, and then see what she can fit you. She'll also send you the information for the e-collar. When you do get your e-collar, I suggest that you read the manual, you mess with it, you fiddle with it, make sure you turn it on. The remote itself, when you use the dial, it's an LED screen, and it goes in increments of 1, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way to 127.
Right.
It should move very smoothly.
Okay.
If you fiddle with it and you see one goes to 35, like super quickly, you have a lemon. Okay, you'll want to return it, exchange it, let us know, we'll push back, whatever, so that we don't come in, because it has happened where I showed up and the owner did nothing with the e-collar.
Yeah.
And then I turn it on and I'm like, oh, this is a faulty
This is
e-collar.
good, yeah.
Yeah. And then I'll send you videos as well. Once you're confirmed, I follow up with everybody with 3 videos to get you prepped for the training classes. Because of COVID, I don't, if ever, really have to touch the dogs. I just coach you guys through everything. It's all verbal instruction, which is also why we record it, because it's so much information. People forget stuff.
Yeah.
So they just go back to their video. But it's all verbal instruction, which in my opinion works really, really well, because nothing is tied to me. I already know how to train dogs, you don't. So you learn everything from ground zero, and it's pretty straightforward. The first class is definitely the hardest, because you don't know what you're doing, the dog doesn't know what's going on. The only one there that actually does know.
Yeah.
If you have any issues or you're struggling with something, like I've just sent other client videos that maybe they're struggling with the same thing, and I'm like, here you go. I just did that earlier with my client before you. His dog was super reactive and he was struggling, so I sent him another video, and then he was like, man, it helped me out a ton.
Yeah.
Because it was really direct, and like he was able to see it and see what he was trying to create. So, it's like just like a resource of videos there. If you want to or are curious on how it works, feel free to go to my YouTube channel. Lesson 1s are always really good to watch, because again, no one knows what's going on. Or you can go to my dog training client highlight videos, which is like, it's where it's more in depth, where I break down the case, and I talk about it and everything like that, and you see clips and me in front of a screen or whatever talking, and it kind of shows you just how that works as well. Okay. Anything else?
No.
Seeing her, or with history of any Rhodesians, what do you think would be the best location preference? I know there's different costs associated with.
Yeah, so we either do Oz Park or here, unless you want it home. And home is now more expensive because COVID. Because now it's pulling me away from here. So most of my clients are doing facility because of the weather.
Yeah.
We used to do Oz. So during the summertime, Oz was great because it is super busy. You have dogs, people, rollerbladers, bikers, strollers, skateboarders, baseball games, kids running around screaming. But now all that's done because no one wants to be out in the cold. So I still work at Oz Park for the clients that want to work outside. I have 2 today.
Okay, so you're still open to it if we...
Yeah, I still do Oz. Just keep in mind that Oz is close to the... Oz is close to the lake, so there's a little bit of a lakefront breeze, so it's a little bit cooler. So plants are like 10 degrees lower than what you see on your phone.
Yeah.
The other thing is how well your dog tolerates the cold.
Yeah, not well.
Yeah, because I was out with the client and his dog was was not having a good time.
Yeah.
And I told him, I have no problem training out here, but please keep in mind your dog is like 18 pounds and is not doing well for an hour out in the cold. So, but yeah, I still do Oz, and then we have Oz Park, and like today is kind of rainy, so Maria's reaching out and telling people would you like to switch, to the facility or whatever, so we have a couple of options there.
Yeah, I just always am curious because she definitely responds better inside to certain commands than she does outside.
Yeah, so what makes...
vice versa, outside.
Yeah, what makes e-collar, why it doesn't really apply to e-collar, is because let's say we trained her here, and her number was like 25 out of 127. And you go home and there's more distractions. Maybe your number's 35.
Okay.
The exercise stays the same, the number changes. Okay, because then it's just a matter of making the command important enough in that setting for her to be compliant.
Yeah.
Okay, and then once you get used to it, like it's really just common sense, where it's like, oh yeah, I'm at the dog park, she needs 55.
Right.
As opposed to we're at the big open field across the street where we only need 20.
Right.
Because there's nothing going on there. So
that makes sense. And now do you, after we find that number, do you recommend the other numbers that come out of that? Like if we're in a higher distraction area, do you say, okay, don't go above this?
Oh, no.
Okay.
I have 127 levels, I use them all.
Okay.
Okay, so, I always tell people don't get married to a number because it's gonna change.
Right.
Right, one day you could be 25 at that open field, and the next day you could be 55 at the same open field.
Right.
Because we don't know what's going on, you know?
Mhm.
Dogs are very sensitive to like the environment and stuff. So it's really just teaching you how to be fluid with the e-collar, because you're just using it as a communication device, you know?
Yeah.
So like when I use it myself, like I'm like all over the place. And you will come across what we call a resting range.
Mhm.
Most dogs are between 25 to 35. Every now and then I'll get an outlier who's like 85 plus. Like the dog I just saw before you was at 85 today. And it just comes down to temperament, personality type, size of the dog does not matter. It's really just like how sensitive they are to the collar. I could have a Rottweiler who's 150 pounds be at 80, and I can have another 150 pound Rottweiler who's on 15.
Yeah.
You know, just two different sensitivity types.
Makes sense.
Okay, anything else?
I'm good. Sit.
That's all my questions.
Okay. So if you got to ask me anything, you can always feel free to reach out. You know,
Okay.
Maria will get in touch with you. Otherwise, she will reach out to contact you, and then you know, think about what you want to do and all that stuff. And then it seems pretty straightforward. I'm just thinking 2 on heel, 2 on recall, some kind of duration command, and then if you want to learn another command for the 6th class because you feel like fairly confident with what you know, or if you want to do you know, the review, like again, I don't care. I just show up.
Yeah.
Okay? So it was a pleasure meeting everybody. If you need anything else, you let us know. Otherwise, I think we have a sweet pup here, but she's definitely an overstimulated, kind of anxious personality type.
Thank you.
Does she have a flat collar, like a standard flat collar, by the way?
Yeah.
Yes.
She does? You'll want to use her standard flat collar. Is it like a snap up or a flat up?
It is a snap.
The snap buckle, okay.
Snap, yeah.
How bad is she with like pulling and stuff?
Pretty bad.
Pretty bad. I would recommend
Using the harness.
well, the harness promotes pulling. So if you try to do e-collar with harness, you're going to get conflicting messages.
Right.
Okay, because harness is saying pull, e-collar is saying don't pull. The reason why I was asked about the snap buckles, because snap buckles, if the dog pulls really hard, can break. I've had that happen to me at least 5 times this year.
Wow.
So I recommend the flat buckle style collars because you will not clip to the e-collar. Okay, if you clip to the e-collar, you're going to inhibit the contact.
Oh, you mean like one that you...
Like it's like a belt.
Like a belt buckle, yeah,
Oh yeah,
exactly.
those are the ones we have.
I know, but the one we're using right now.
That one barely fits anymore though. But we'll use...
We have
Yeah.
a belt buckle.
Yeah, if you have a belt buckle one, that's very
It's
secure.
starting to get thick here.
Yeah, that'll work best.
Okay.
So do you recommend when she's like pulling that to pull her back?
Right, because then it just
Okay.
creates more pulling.
That's
I mean, you don't really have
Oh, hey.
much of an option because of what you have here.
Yeah, so what would you recommend doing? Just stopping?
It's just what you did here, like I just anchor.
Okay.
You know, because if you give counter pressure back, that's what the dog is going against,
Yeah.
right? But if I just like shorten the leash and like in just limiting range of motion, at some point, because as soon as she pulls and she alleviates, the pressure goes away. But if you're pulling and she's pulling, and then when she alleviates the pressure, you're still pulling,
Right.
that's where people struggle. Because people tend to lock up.
Okay.
People have bad habits. Like
Yeah.
you'll see it all, especially when you watch a lesson, you'll see the owners always going up like this with the leash
Mm-hmm.
because they're so used to physically restraining their dog.
Yeah.
And when we do e-collar, it's all about mental control, not physical control. And that's why we're able to get off leash
Mm-hmm.
reliability, is because of that. But yeah, for what you have here, like this is fine until you get started.
Okay.
It's not gonna like, you know, create more work for you.
Right.
It's just not what I recommend, especially for larger dogs, just because they are very powerful. Their center of gravity is lower to the ground. And they'll
It's a
get
little
down.
too strong for us.
Okay, no, they're so long.
Yeah.
And then last thing, so the price online for the 6 sessions is the price, I
Correct.
obviously didn't see it. Okay.
Yeah, whatever's on the website is now the current update
Okay,
price.
perfect.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay,
Sit.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
no worries. If you need anything else, let us know. And then of course, your fee gets credited towards your program,
Okay.
so you don't lose anything there. And then Maria will fill you in on anything else that you may need.